This is Canada Life's Fraud Investigation Unit. We need to verify. Are you Douglas Tremblay, and are you currently alive? That was the question I heard through the morphine fog in my ICU bed. 5 days after emergency heart surgery, my stepson had filed a life insurance claim. Told them I was dead, said the death certificate was being processed, started the paperwork to collect $2 million. What John didn't know was that I'd changed the beneficiary 3 months earlier, and I had his voice on every recorded call. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 6 months earlier, I was sitting in my home office in Mississauga, going through bank statements the way I did every month. 40 years as a quality control engineer at Bombardier teaches you to check everything twice. That's when I found it. A check made out to cash. $800. My signature. Except I hadn't written it. I pulled up my security camera footage, the one I'd installed after my wife Patricia died 2 years ago, just for peace of mind. The timestamp showed 3 weeks earlier, 2 in the morning. John, my stepson, going through my checkbook. I spent the next week finding them all. 19 checks over 18 months, totaling $60,000. When I confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. I needed it, he said. His voice was flat. Matter of fact. For what? Loans? What kind of loans? The kind you don't ask questions about. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else. I saw his phone light up on my desk, a text message. The preview showed a number and 5 words. Friday or we have problems. How much do you owe? John looked at me, really looked at me, like he was calculating something. 80,000. I felt something shift. This wasn't just theft. This was desperation. I thought the gambling was the worst of it. I had no idea what desperation would make him do when I was unconscious. I didn't call the police. I should have. $60,000 in forged checks, clear evidence, open and shut case. But John was Patricia's son, and Patricia had asked me to look after him before she died. That was 2 years ago. Cancer. 18 months from diagnosis to funeral. John blamed me for not doing enough, for not trying harder, for not spending more on experimental treatments. He stopped calling after the funeral, stopped visiting, just showed up occasionally to check on the house, to check on me, or so I thought. I spent the next 4 months documenting everything, every transaction, every forged check, every security camera timestamp. I'm an engineer. Evidence matters. But the loan shark text kept bothering me. I needed to know how bad it was. One afternoon when John visited, I offered him tea. He left his phone on the kitchen counter while he used the bathroom. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The messages told the whole story. Online poker, sports betting, 3 years of losses, accounts and collections, and one contact saved as just a phone number. The messages from that number weren't subtle. 20,000 by end of month or your mother's family gets involved. That was dated 2 weeks ago. I put the phone back exactly where he'd left it. When John came back to the kitchen, I asked him a question. Have you thought about getting help? For what? The gambling. His face went hard. I don't have a gambling problem. John, I'm not stupid. You went through my phone. I saw a text. That's all. He picked up his phone, shoved it in his pocket. You had no right. I have every right to protect myself. From what? From whatever you're planning next. He left without finishing his tea. That night, I called my insurance agent, asked about changing my life insurance beneficiary. The current beneficiary is John Whitmore, the agent said. Who would you like to change it to? My niece, Emma Tremblay. She's your sister's daughter? Yes. Any particular reason for the change? I'm updating my estate plan. The paperwork took 3 days. The agent came to my house, witnessed my signature, filed everything with Canada Life. John never knew. I kept documenting. Bank statements in chronological order, printed security footage stills, screenshots of his gambling accounts from my computer's browser history. I locked it all in my safe deposit box, just in case. 3 months later, I woke up in an ambulance. The heart attack hit during my morning walk. Corner of Maple and 3rd. A neighbor called 911. I remember the paramedic's face above me. You're going to be okay, Mr. Tremblay. Stay with me. Then nothing. I woke up 2 days later in ICU. Tubes everywhere. Machines beeping. A nurse leaning over me. Welcome back, she said. You had us worried. Emergency triple bypass. But you came through beautifully. My family? Your stepson has been here, asking questions, very concerned about your prognosis. Something about the way she said it What kind of questions? Medical ones, survival rates, recovery timelines, whether we expected complications. The nurse smiled. But you're stable now. Vitals are strong. You're going to be fine. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt a cold certainty settle in my chest. John wasn't asking those questions out of concern. He was asking them to plan. Day 5 in ICU. My cell phone rang on the bedside table. Private number. I answered it anyway. This is Canada Life's Fraud Investigation Unit. We need to verify. Are you Douglas Tremblay? And are you currently alive? I blinked at the ceiling tiles, trying to process the question through the medication. Yes, I'm Douglas Tremblay, and I'm very much alive. Excellent. The voice was professional, calm. Can you confirm your policy number? I rattled it off from memory. 40 years of keeping track of numbers. Mr. Tremblay, we received a death claim on your policy 3 days ago, filed by John Whitmore. He stated that you died from complications during surgery. Is this accurate? No. The silence stretched for 3 seconds. Mr. Tremblay, I need to ask some direct questions. Are you currently in a hospital? Yes. Credit Valley Hospital, ICU. And you underwent heart surgery? Emergency triple bypass, 5 days ago. But you survived the surgery, obviously. Has Mr. Whitmore visited you since the surgery? Once. Day 2. He asked the nurses about my prognosis. Then he left. I heard typing on the other end. Mr. Tremblay, this is now a fraud investigation. Mr. Whitmore submitted a claim stating you died on the operating table. He said the death certificate was being processed through the hospital. He listed himself as the sole beneficiary and next of kin. I closed my eyes. There it was. What exactly did he say? We record all claim calls. I can send you written transcripts, but the summary is, he claimed you died at approximately 2:15 p.m. during surgery. He said he was making funeral arrangements. He asked about the payout timeline 3 times in the first call. How many times has he called? 4 times in 3 days. Increasingly insistent about when the funds would be released. Has he told anyone else I'm dead? According to our notes, he listed your sister Margaret Tremblay as someone who could verify the death. We haven't contacted her yet because our vital statistics check showed no death certificate filed. That's when we called you directly. My sister doesn't know I'm alive? If Mr. doesn't know I'm alive, Whitmore told her you died. She may believe it. We see this in fraud cases. The perpetrator creates a narrative and involves others to make it seem legitimate. I need copies of everything he said. I'll email written transcripts to the address on file. Mr. Tremblay, I need to inform you. This is a serious criminal matter. Insurance fraud over $5,000 is an indictable offense under the Criminal Code, Section 3080. We'll be referring this to the RCMP. What happens now? We deny the claim. We document everything. And we cooperate with law enforcement. But Mr. Tremblay, you should know that your beneficiary information shows Emma Tremblay as the current recipient, not John Whitmore. When was that changed? Our records show 3 months ago. I heard more typing, so John has no claim to this policy at all. Correct. He filed a fraudulent death claim for benefits he's not entitled to receive. That makes this significantly worse from a legal standpoint. Good. The investigator paused. Mr. Tremblay, do you have legal representation? Yes. I recommend contacting them immediately, and perhaps your family. If Mr. Whitmore has been telling people you're dead, they deserve to know the truth. Send me those transcripts. Everything he said, word for word. You'll have them within the hour. The line went dead. I sat there, machines beeping around me, trying to process what John had done. He'd filed the claim 3 days after my surgery, while I was unconscious, while I was fighting to survive. He'd already started spending the money in his mind. Already planning what to do with $2 million, already lying to my family. This is elder vengeance, where desperation never justifies betrayal. Subscribe right now, because what I arranged from my ICU bed proved that you don't need to be on your feet to stand your ground. Hit that bell icon. The confrontation I organized 12 days later is exactly why this channel exists. I picked up my phone again, dialed Harold Kim, my lawyer, 30 years of handling my estate planning. He answered on the second ring. Douglas, I heard about your surgery. How are you? Alive, which is apparently news to some people. What? I need you to arrange something. A meeting. Hospital conference room, day 12, if the doctors clear me. What kind of meeting? The kind where we document fraud. Can you be here? Of course. What do I need to bring? Your witness signature. And maybe a notepad. Douglas, what's going on? John filed a life insurance claim. Told them I was dead. 48 hours after my surgery. Harold went quiet. I'm changing into a suit. I'll be there in an hour. We need to talk about next steps. Bring your calendar too. We're going to need the RCMP involved eventually. Already thinking 3 steps ahead. That's why you're still breathing, Douglas. No, that's why John is about to lose everything. Day 12. The doctors cleared me to have visitors in a conference room. I was still weak, still in a hospital gown, but I could sit up for an hour. That was all I needed. Harold Kim arrived first, dressed in a suit, carrying a leather folder. He sat up at the head of the conference table, documents arranged in precise stacks. Your sister's on her way, he said. Emma, too. And John. What did you tell him? That we needed to discuss your estate. That it was urgent. He thinks I'm dying. Let him think that. The door opened. Margaret came in first, her husband behind her. Her face was red, eyes swollen. She saw me and stopped. Doug? Hello, Margaret? She crossed the room in 3 steps, threw her arms around me. You're alive, John said. He told me you died on the table. He called me 4 days ago. I've been planning your funeral. I know. Why would he say that? Sit down. You're about to find out. Emma arrived next, 29 years old, elementary school teacher, Patricia's favorite niece. She looked confused. Uncle Doug, I don't understand, John said. I know what John said. Please sit. John walked in last. He saw me sitting there, went pale. Dad, I'm not your father. Douglas is fine. But you, the surgery, I thought. You thought I was dead. I know. You told Canada Life the same thing. John looked at Harold, at Margaret, at Emma. Back to me. I can explain. Please do. We're all listening. There was a misunderstanding. I thought, the doctors said I was stable, recovering well. You asked them about survival rates, about complications, not about my actual condition. Harold opened his folder, slid a document across the table. These are written transcripts from Canada Life, your claim calls, all 4 of them. John didn't touch the paper. You told them I died at 2:15 p.m. on the operating table. You said you were making funeral arrangements. You asked about the payout timeline 3 times in the first call. I was confused, emotional. You were calculating. You filed that claim 48 hours after my surgery, while I was unconscious. Margaret picked up the transcript, started reading. Her face changed with each line. John, what is this? Harold slid another document forward. This is the beneficiary designation, changed 3 months ago. The primary beneficiary is Emma Tremblay, not John Whitmore. Emma's head snapped up. What? John stared at the paper. That's not… You wouldn't… I did. 3 months before my heart attack. Why? Because of these. I nodded to Harold. He spread bank statements across the table, highlighted entries on each one. $60,000, forged checks, 18 months of theft. John's breathing got faster. And these. Harold placed printed screenshots on top. Gambling accounts, text messages from loan sharks. You owed $80,000, I said. You were stealing from me to pay them off. And when that wasn't enough, you decided to cash in early. I thought you were going to die anyway. The room went silent. Margaret stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. Are you serious right now? Those people were threatening me. Serious people. I didn't have a choice. You had dozens of choices. Stealing wasn't one of them. Filing a fraudulent death claim certainly wasn't. Emma was crying quietly. Uncle Doug, I didn't know about any of this. I don't want the money. I don't want any of this. It's not about the money, Emma. It's about boundaries. John turned to me, his voice cracking. I'm in trouble. Real trouble. The loan shark isn't waiting. Friday, he said. Friday, or my family gets involved. That's tomorrow. I need that money. So you tried to kill me on paper. I thought, if you were already dying, if the surgery was risky, I wasn't dying. I had a heart attack. I survived. And you filed a fraudulent claim before my vitals were even stable. Harold cleared his throat. Mr. Whitmore, I need to inform you that Canada Life has referred this matter to the RCMP. Insurance fraud over $5,000 is an indictable offense. Criminal Code Section 380. You'll likely be contacted within 48 hours for an interview. John put his head in his hands. I'm going to jail. That depends on your lawyer and the Crown, but yes, probably. Margaret grabbed her purse, looked at John with something I'd never seen on her face before. Disgust. Don't call me. Don't come to my house. You're not welcome anymore. She walked out. Her husband followed. Emma stood slowly, looked at John, then at me. I'm sorry this happened to you, Uncle Doug. It's not your fault. She left too. John and I sat there, Harold between us like a referee. Your desperation doesn't excuse fraud, I said. John didn't answer. He just stared at the transcripts, at his own words, at the evidence of what he'd done. Who are you going to tell died? I asked. Your stepfather, or a mark. He stood up, walked to the door, turned back one last time. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're caught. There's a difference. The door closed behind him. Harold started gathering documents. Well, that went exactly as expected. Contact the RCMP. Give them everything. Already scheduled for Monday. Good. I leaned back in the chair, exhausted, but alive. Very much alive. I was discharged 4 days later. By then, the consequences had already started. Canada Life officially denied the claim, sent John a letter stating the reasons. Fraudulent death report, false statements, misrepresentation of beneficiary status. They copied the RCMP on everything. 2 days after I got home, a detective called John, asked him to come in for an interview. Margaret told me later that John showed up with a lawyer, answered every question, admitted to filing the claim. He thought honesty would help. It didn't. Over the following 3 weeks, everything John had built collapsed. His employer found out about the fraud charge. Investment firms don't keep employees under criminal investigation. Ethics violation. Immediate termination. His landlord received notice of the charge too, ran a background check, found the gambling debts, the loan shark connections, served an eviction notice. John had 30 days to find somewhere else to live. The loan shark situation got worse. Friday came and went. John didn't have the money, couldn't get the money. The threats escalated. He ended up moving in with his aunt, Patricia's sister, the one person who still took his calls. Margaret changed the locks on the family cottage, the one we all co-owned, removed John from the shared property documents. You made your choice, she told him on the phone. I heard about it later. Now live with it. Emma came to visit me that second week, brought groceries, helped me organize medications. We sat in my living room, the same room where Patricia and I used to have coffee every morning. I don't want the life insurance, she said. It feels wrong. It's not about the money, Emma. It's about making sure it doesn't go to someone who'd use it for gambling debts. But John is family. So are you. And you were there when your Aunt Patricia was dying. You sat with her. You cared. John showed up twice. She was quiet for a long time. What happens to him now? That's up to the courts. Do you think he'll go to jail? I don't know. But I did know. Harold had explained it. First offense, mitigating circumstances, gambling addiction, no actual payout received. John would probably get a conditional sentence. House arrest, probation, mandated treatment. The letter arrived 3 weeks after the hospital confrontation. Handwritten, John's writing, addressed to me. I opened it at my kitchen table. It was 2 pages, single-spaced, dense. The first paragraph was an apology. The second was an explanation. The gambling, the debts, the pressure, the fear. The third paragraph was blame. The addiction made me do it. I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't mean for it to go this far. The fourth paragraph was a request. Could I write a letter to the court? Character reference. Mitigating circumstances. He had a problem. He was getting help now. I put the letter in my filing cabinet. Didn't respond. Harold called me the next week with the update. John pleaded guilty, took a deal, avoided trial, fraud over $5,000. Indictable offense. Criminal Code, Section 380. The sentencing came 2 weeks later. I didn't attend. Conditional sentence. 2 years house arrest, 3 years probation, restitution order for legal fees and investigation costs. Mandated gambling addiction treatment program. No jail time, but a criminal record that would follow him for the rest of his life. Harold told me the judge's comments about trust, about family, about exploiting someone's vulnerability during a medical crisis, about how desperation might explain behavior but doesn't excuse it. Emma asked me if I felt satisfied. I told her the truth. I don't feel satisfied. I feel sad, but I also feel safe. And sometimes that's more important. 6 weeks after surgery, I was home, heart healing, sitting in my study, the same desk where I'd found those first forged checks, the same filing cabinet John had raided at 2 in the morning, everything organized, everything documented, everything in its place. Emma came by twice a week, brought groceries, checked my medications, made sure I was eating properly. She'd accepted the beneficiary designation, not because she wanted the money, because she understood what it represented. Trust. Margaret called occasionally, updated me on John. He was living with his aunt, attending court-mandated gambling addiction meetings, working part-time at a warehouse. The portfolio manager job was gone. The investment firm career was over. No financial institution would hire someone with a fraud conviction. He'd asked Margaret to ask me if I'd visit. I told her no. Some bridges don't get rebuilt. Harold sent me the final legal documents. Case closed. Restitution payments set up on a schedule. 5 years of monthly installments. John would be paying back the investigation costs until he was 39 years old. I filed everything in the cabinet, locked it. I thought about Patricia sometimes. What she would have said about all this. She'd always defended John, always made excuses, always believed he'd turn things around. But she'd also been a practical woman. She would have wanted boundaries, protection, safety. She would have understood why I changed the beneficiary. The heart attack changed something in me, not just physically. I realized how quickly everything could end, how vulnerable we are when we're unconscious, how much trust we place in the people closest to us. John violated that trust at the moment I was most helpless. That's not something you forgive just because genetics or marriage certificates say you should. Family isn't unconditional when it crosses into criminality. I was sitting there when Emma knocked, let herself in with the key I'd given her, brought soup, homemade. We ate together in the kitchen, talked about her students, about her lesson plans, about normal things. That's what peace looks like. Not dramatic confrontations, not courtroom victories, just soup in the kitchen with someone who actually cares whether you're eating. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself? Drop a comment below and let me know your story. This is Elder Vengeance, where boundaries aren't optional, they're survival. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more tales of quiet dignity defeating desperate betrayal. Hit that like button if watching John lose everything he tried to steal felt like justice. And remember, desperation explains behavior. It doesn't excuse it. Until next time, assumptions about inheritance create criminals. Quiet doesn't mean weak.